Making homemade kefir is even easier than making your own pickles, and it might just be the most powerful thing you ever do for your gut health. I'm going to show you everything you need to know to make your first fizzy, tangy, probiotic cup of delicious kefir and start transforming your health. Once you understand it, it'll basically make itself. Everything in this video is timestamped and all the tools you will need are linked below. Not all grains are the same. I've tried 2 different brands and these are by far the best I've used. Incredibly easy to work with, and the guy running the business was super helpful with any questions I had. We'll open these up in a moment. Glass containers. Non-reactive, see-through, and able to hold 4 cups or a quart or about 1 liter of kefir. Perfect for this. A strainer is needed to separate the grains from the finished kefir. Make sure to use a strainer that is made from an inert or non-reactive material like stainless steel or nylon. Avoid aluminum as it reacts with the acid in the kefir. I want a fine mesh strainer. The finer the better, but size matters here too. The big one will do. Animal milk is what these kefir grains need as they feed on the lactose in milk. Any lactose-containing milk will work, no matter the degree of pasteurization. Everything from raw to ultra pasteurized will work here, despite what some people say. You see me use several different kinds of milk with these grains: non-homogenized, homogenized, low temp pasteurized, ultra pasteurized. It doesn't matter as long as the milk contains lactose, because that's what the healthy bacteria in the kefir grains feed on. If you prefer to make kefir from plant-based milks, check out the video link down below that will take you to a separate channel that I think covers that process very well. Again, all these items, the best and the cheapest I could find, can be purchased all in one place through my Amazon affiliate store, linked below for your convenience. The best way to revive your kefir grains is always going to be to follow the instructions that come with the grains. That being said, the point of this video is, in part, to put pictures to these many words and hopefully make the process much more approachable. Cleanliness is of utmost importance whenever fermenting anything. We're trying to grow good microbes, not the bad ones. So I wash my hands before even touching the grains, and I make sure to clean all of my equipment. Hot soap and water is sufficient for this process, as kefir is very forgiving. This sort of smell like cheese and yeast. Tiny bit of sourness to it. As soon as the kefir grains arrive in the mail, place them into a glass container with about 1 cup of milk or 240 milliliters. No mixing necessary, and screw on the lid, making sure to leave a bit of wiggle room for air to pass through. Leave the milk mixture in a warm spot at 68 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 to 25 degrees C out of direct sunlight for 36 hours. This is the first round for the revival process. It's also helpful to mark this as the active batch, and you'll see why later. 1.5 days later, and I've got a slightly more mature batch of kefir grains. You should see that the milk has a white to off-white color to it, and notice the air pockets closer to the bottom where the milk has thickened a bit. Don't worry, if you don't see or smell any changes, it's only the first round. Sort of like Parmesan cheese. Not bad. It smells almost sweet, so I don't think anything's gone bad. I'm just using this wooden skewer to dislodge any stuck on grains, but that's not necessary since I'm going to be using the same bottle throughout this revival process. After pouring through a fine mesh strainer, I make sure to get all of the grains scooped out, and I return the grains to the container. This time, I cover the grains with 2 cups of milk, or about half a liter, since they should be able to handle it now. I then clean up the neck of the bottle and as far down as I can reach. I don't know if this step is necessary, but I just like to do it to maintain cleanliness. Cap back on loosely, and I leave it for another 36 hours. Cleanup, by the way, is rather simple, and I prefer to do it right away to avoid any stuck-on mess later. Another 1.5 days later, and it's clear we have some curdling going on. Smells fine, kind of like plain yogurt. It's a bit of a jiggle. Jiggly boy. Pouring that out again into a fine mesh strainer, it almost looks like a white jello. Here's a look inside the bottle at this point. Those stuck on bits are no problem. This is my technique for separating the kefir from the grains. A bit of gentle scooping around, followed by some gentle shaking. The grains look like cottage cheese, and return the grains to the bottle, letting gravity help me scoop them up as to not grate them into the strainer. Fill the bottle back up with 2 cups of milk again, about half of the bottle, fine to just eyeball it. Notice now that the kefir grains are starting to float near the surface. That's a sign that they are active and well. Cap back on loosely, and leave the mix for 24 to 36 hours. This time stopping the ferment when the signs we've been seeing, curdling, thickening, separation, etc., are prominent. Time's up after about 26 hours. The grains are getting stronger, and that's the idea. Notice the air pockets. Jiggle jiggle. If you tighten the cap and shake the kefir a little bit, when you open the bottle you can hear that sound is CO2, another sign of an active fermentation. Pour out, strain, scoop, milk, another 24 to 36 hours, this time hoping for the fermentation to be complete by the 24-hour mark, if not sooner. 24 hours later, floating grains, jiggly texture, air pockets at the bottom. It's done.
Tangy yogurt.
And time to start the first batch of kefir that I get to actually drink. Shaky, shaky, grains go back into the bottle. And this time I'm pouring in 4 cups or roughly 1 liter of milk. According to the instructions, that places me smack dab in the middle of the 2 to 6 cup or half to 1.5 liter range of milk that this much kefir grain can ferment at any one time. Cleaning the edge and inside neck, again, I'm not sure this is necessary, but it helps my peace of mind. Lid, wiggly. And I leave it on the counter for, well, here's the thing. Despite this video being an attempt at showing you clear steps for making your own homemade kefir, it's important to realize that it's not an exact science. Nervously reading over everything to make sure I'm doing it right. At 75 degrees Fahrenheit or 24°C, this 4 cups of milk should be fully fermented by the 24-hour mark. Should, but in reality, it might take up to 36 hours again. You will know it's done by the following signs. Texture, it's slightly thicker than milk, like drinkable yogurt. It can range in texture from creamy and smooth to clumpy and gelatinous. Smell, it should smell pleasantly tangy, like yogurt, and maybe even slightly yeasty. Separation, you might see clear yellowish liquid whey separating from white curds, especially if left longer. This much separation means it's overdone, but still safe and healthy. This much is more ideal. Floating, rubbery, plump grains indicate healthy grains, and healthy grains means healthy kefir. You should also notice a slight fizz or signs of activity in the final product. And finally, taste. Tangy, slightly sour, like yogurt, even effervescent or fizzy. It shouldn't taste milky anymore, and it shouldn't have an alcoholic burn or a bitter or sharp taste. Bottom line, if it looks like, smells like, acts like, and tastes like kefir, it's kefir and it's safe to drink. This, now 24 hours later, is the first batch of kefir I'm going to drink, but first I like to let it chill out in the fridge for a few hours or overnight. This slows the fermentation and improves the texture and flavor. Yeah, I could drink that every day. Oh, wait. I do. Now that I've had my first batch of kefir, everything gets a lot more simplistic, except there are some things to pay attention to. Like I mentioned before, keeping the equipment clean is important for having a healthy ferment. It's a good idea to wash your kefir bottles at least once every week. Use a bottle brush or tongs and a rag to really get into the grooves. At this stage, the feeding is going to be the same going forward. Grains, 4 cups or about 1 liter of milk. Cover lightly and let sit for 24 hours or so. Strain off the kefir, bottle it, chill it, and repeat, like having an edible Tamagotchi. Day by day, you will notice the kefir looks more and more overdone by the 24-hour mark. This is because, depending on the type of grains you buy, your kefir grain supply will grow to be multiple times larger than what you started out with. This is a normal and expected function of healthy kefir grains, nothing to be worried about, but that leads to the next section. Every few weeks, you will need to either cut down the amount of kefir grains you are using or up the amount of milk. And since adding an unfathomable amount of milk to a baby-sized mass of kefir grains sounds slightly unreasonable, the best thing to do is to get rid of the grains you don't need. Me being a walking, talking, and sometimes funny trash can makes this process pretty easy. But no, seriously, kefir grains are perfectly edible if you feel so inclined. It's like getting a mega dose of the same probiotics that are in kefir, only in a chewy form. Not bad. Alternatively, you can make sure to save a heaping tablespoon for your next ferment and package the rest up for a friend. Now you can have a kefir buddy. And if you don't have any friends, you could always store the grains long term in the freezer. Here's how to do that. Scoop the extra grains into a freezer safe container. Get some dehydrated milk powder. Just sprinkle on enough milk powder to coat the grains. It helps to protect the grains from freezer burn and preserve the grain structure. Follow up with some milk, a couple tablespoons or enough to cover, and freeze until solid. Transfer the frozen disc to a sealed freezer bag and keep frozen for up to 3 months. To revive the grains, you simply follow the same steps in the revival process I already showed. Now, what if I can't feed the grains every day? Like many nights in my life, let's say the grains just finished fermenting and it's 11 o'clock at night, and all I want to do is watch YouTube until my eyes bleed. Basically, these grains ain't eating tonight. Simple. The grains and fermented product can be stored just as is for up to 3 days in the fridge before they absolutely need to be fed again. By that time, I take them out and just go through the normal process again. Now, if I know I won't be able to feed the grains for up to a week, it's possible to just strain off the kefir, give the grains fresh milk, and leave in the fridge for up to 1 week. Note that storing the grains in these ways, especially frequently, frequently may result in a runnier kefir texture and slight taste changes. In that case, it's still safe to drink, but going through a few fermentations should bring it back to normal. Speaking of normal, it's important to note that kefir shouldn't taste very yeasty. If it does, then your fermentation conditions are favoring the yeast more than the bacteria. To rebalance things, you could increase the amount of milk used, reduce the amount of grain, shorten the ferment time, feed the grains more often, or reduce the ambient temperature. The sweet spot is to ferment 1 tablespoon of kefir grains in 4 cups, about 1 liter, of milk for 12 to 24 hours at a room temperature of 65 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 to 22 C. Avoid temperatures above 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 29 C, as this will encourage growth of bad bacteria. And if your grains ever look fuzzy or green, black, or orange, throw them out. They spoiled and you'll have to start over. No mold can be tolerated. If all goes well, like it should if you follow the instructions that come with your grains, you'll be enjoying some noteworthy benefits. Many people experience improved digestion, relief from constipation or diarrhea, mood improvements, better blood sugar control, skin and allergy relief, more energy, and less bloating. And here's the basic nutritional breakdown of homemade kefir compared to milk. This stuff is pretty amazing. Please tell me it turned out good, so I don't cry. I will cry. You don't want me to cry, do you? Do you?